Hi, my name is Darren Trofimczuk and welcome. In these next following 4 videos, I'm going to be showing you how to use HTML code to create a very simple web page. So let's get started. So I decided to create 4 separate videos. I'm going to split these up into small chunks. In this part 1 video, I'm going to be going through the following 5 points. First of all, what is HTML5 and a very simplified basic history. Also, I'm then going to talk about what type of editor you should be using. Now, in these 4 videos, I'll be using Notepad++, but I also understand that many of my students that I usually teach, they also have Macs. So I'll also briefly explain how to use TextEdit, which is the text editor on a Mac computer. But it doesn't really matter which one you use, although in these videos, I'll just be using the Notepad++. The third point is I'm going to then introduce how you just get started with HTML code, and then some key tags. We'll then look at some basic elements, and then I'll show you how to save your HTML document and how to view this in a web browser such as Firefox or Google Chrome. Right, so let's actually get started. Okay, so let's first start and explain exactly what is HTML. Well, first of all, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And you could think of HTML as more or less like the backbone of any web page that you look at. It's actually a really interesting language to learn because you can effectively go to any web page and even view the source code. And as you can see here, there's a screenshot of how a web page looks when you do view the source code. In fact, you can go to any browser and do this for yourself. So let's take a look and see how you can view source code. Here you can see I'm in the web browser Firefox, and this is my web page that you're viewing at the moment. And if you want to view the source code when you are using Mozilla Firefox, all you need to do is go to the top right-hand corner. So you can see my cursor moving here, and you go to top right-hand corner, and then what you do is you then go to Web Developer, or select a web developer option, and then you can select the page source. Now, when you select the page source, what you'll see is a breakdown of all the code used to create this web page. And as you can see, there's lots of different types of code here. It doesn't only just contain HTML, there's also something called script, which is basically scripts that run inside the code itself. This will be something we actually explore in some later videos. But the whole point is that there's a number of different tags, HTML tags, that help create this page. If you're going to use another browser such as Google Chrome, okay, it's more or less the same process. You can view the source code, but what you would do is again go to the same location, top right-hand corner, but this time select More Tools, and then Developer Tools. And then what you'll see is a bit more of a nicer way to view the code, except when you hover over the HTML code, it will actually show you on the web page itself where those tags are doing what on that web page, which is quite nice. So as I hover over this, you can see it's showing me on the page itself. Okay, and this is a much nicer way actually to view the code. But both browsers, or any browser, usually you have an option to view the source code. And one of the key founders of this language was Tim Berners-Lee. And this basically, this was created in the early 1990s. But what Tim Berners-Lee effectively managed to do was enable a way for people to view web pages. And this is how hypertext markup language was invented. So he's known as the father of the internet. Now, the history of HTML, as you can see, there's different versions. Okay, already HTML version 2, okay, that was in the mid-1990s. We then had a few years later HTML version 3, and then HTML version 4, and so on. And obviously, these updates have been quite frequent. The current one that we use now is HTML5. And that's what I'll be focusing in this course, although there is now already HTML6, which is an updated version from HTML5. But to keep things simplified, I'll just be focusing on the HTML5 part. Another couple of things that are useful to know is that when we view a web page, we have what we call the client, or the computer that connects to the web page. So that's basically just me and you, or people that view the web page. And then a web page itself sits on a server. So all the information, these web pages that you view, will be sitting on a server somewhere located in the world. And it's important that we kind of bear this in mind, because whenever we view any web page on the internet, what we effectively are looking at is a connection of servers connected, interconnected all over the world. Okay, so that's a basic overview. And now let's get started with the next point of this video. So we just looked at a brief history of different types of HTML. And for the next few videos, we're going to be using just HTML5. And you'll also be thinking, what is the difference between HTML previous versions and HTML5? Really, in a nutshell, HTML5 was just really to make a much more easier way for people to view a web page. And for example, when most people these days, when they do view like a web page, they'll most probably be using this on their mobile phone device. So by using HTML5, the idea was to make it much easier for these web pages to be able to load on certain types of screen. It also made it a little bit more efficient for people to be able to create more kind of useful features to look at. And it just took all the previous versions of HTML and encapsulated this into HTML5. Okay, and then we'll now move forward and go to the next step. So before we do get started, I want to briefly just mention a little bit more about using different types of text editors. Now, in these videos, I'm going to be using my Windows computer, and that's what I'm using to do these recordings. So it's obviously, for me, I'm going to be just focusing on using Notepad++. But saying that, all the things I show you with HTML code in this video, there's no reason why Mac users can't also do exactly the same. That the only difference will be is what type of text editor you will use. Okay, and for Mac users, okay, they'll be usually using TextEdit, which is basically just really a simplified version of Notepad++. So that's what I'm going to show you just for the Mac users now. If you are using TextEdit, there's a couple of things that you need to do when you actually do save your web page or view your web page. So let's take a look at these. First of all, when you do load your web page or write your code, on the left-hand side, you'll see that this is how a typical page looks, and we'll go into a bit more of these different tags, what they mean. But for now, you would usually just write your code straight into TextEdit, and then when you do go to save your page, what you'd have to do is make sure I've circled this for you. You'd have to go onto where it says plain text decoding, then change this to HTML code, and then press save. Now, in most cases, this would then allow you to be able to view your page on a web browser. But then sometimes, if that doesn't work, what you'd have to do is also possibly go into your TextEdit settings, okay, and make sure that it's been set so it actually forces the TextEdit program to view your pages as HTML pages. And I've got how you would do this. And for Mac users, that's all you really have to do. You just need to make sure you've done these settings beforehand, and then you'll be able to follow all the code that I show you and view them in your web browser on your Mac. Now, for those that are using Windows, obviously that would be most of us will be using Notepad++. And the first thing you need to do is make sure your Notepad++ program has been updated. And if you are using a Windows device, all you have to do is just usually go into the bottom left-hand corner, and you can simply just look for this. Okay, you'll see Notepad++ comes up automatically for me. When you press this, okay, it will then open the main page. And a few things just to quickly go through with you. When I open a new page here, okay, you can simply just type your code onto the page itself. And then when you're ready to save your code, when it's the first time, you'd simply go to File, Save As, okay, and then you would select, give your page a name. I'd recommend the first page, you could just call this home page, okay, or page 1, it's entirely up to you. And then you'd select down from here, hypertext markup language. And you'll also notice that I've created a folder beforehand on my desktop. So the idea is that I'm going to save all my pages straight into this folder. So let's save this. Okay, and then you can, every time you do your code, you can then simply just press save just to make sure it's updated. Now, when you run the page and you want to view this outside Notepad, what you can simply then do is go to where it says run, and it will then look on your computer to see what other browsers you have. You launch your code and view this in your web browser, such as Firefox or Chrome or Safari, if you have that installed on your device. So Notepad++ is going to be the one that we use for now, and that's mainly the key differences really between TextEdit and Notepad++. So now we're going to actually get our hands a little bit more dirty and create a simple web page with some very basic code. Now, the first thing really you need to look at is the basic layout of a page. And what you can see here is how that would look. And these tags I will have on my web page, and I'll put links in the YouTube video. So you can copy the code directly and put that into your text editor. But usually every web page will start off with what we call this doctype HTML. And what that tag does is it tells the browser that you are going to be using the latest version. It should be using the latest version of HTML code, which is obviously HTML5. Okay, so you need to always start I'd recommend you always start your code with this doctype HTML. And then you can see you then use the tag HTML, and then you put head, title, and then you'll notice it's got this / that ends the head tag and the title tag. So some of these tags will have what we call this / to enable the tag to be closed. And then you have this body tag. Okay, and then in between these body tags, you then put elements. And these elements are things which you want to appear on the web page itself. So one of the most common elements that we use is this heading tag, H1. And there's 6 different types of heading tags you can use, which change the size of your heading. And then the P tag, which is usually for when you want to write a paragraph. And then every time you close your paragraph, you should put this / P. So these are what we call the element tags. And then your web page should then end. So there will be loads of other code in between the body tag. But then once you finish this, you then put / body. And then you always end your web page with / HTML. So this is a very simplified breakdown of how that would look when you first start your web page. So what I'm going to now do is copy this code and then put this into Notepad and actually then save this as a web page and see how it looks. So let's see how this works out. So we've got Notepad opened, and I'm just going to copy the tags that we just looked at for the basic layout page. You can see that when I've got them here, okay, because I've already saved this as a web page, which we looked at just a minute ago, you'll see the tags actually change. And what I would suggest you actually do to get into a good habit is try to leave a space between the different tags. And I'll explain why it's a good habit to do this a bit later on. Okay, and then, yeah, I'll just put a tag here. Okay, and now let's just quickly look at what these tags mean. Now, the title tag, first of all, this is the title of the page browser. So for example, if I just change this and put my name, so Darren Trofimczuk, this will not appear actually inside the web page you view, but on top of the browser tab, you'll see this was how basically how you personalize it. So this is the title. Okay, and then you have to close this obviously with head. So you can notice here I've got /. The body tag, I'm going to just simply leave this as it is. I've got this defined, this element as H1. Okay, so let's just put my first heading for this video, just so you can see what happens. And then a paragraph tag. And obviously paragraph can be if you wanted to write a body of text. And then you close this with the P tag /P. And then you put, because I'm now going to have this as the only part of the web page that we view now, I'm going to also close this with /body and then /HTML. So I simply just make sure I save this. I've already saved this as homepage.html in Notepad. I then go to run, and I'm going to launch this in Firefox. Okay, and you can see now this is how it looks. And also you'll see that I've got this Darren Trofimczuk on the web browser as the name for the browser. Now, the clever thing is, if you are going to change something on your web page and you wanted just to basically view this very quickly, what you can do is where you change something, for example, my first paragraph, take 3. Okay, I just simply press save. Okay, I'll go back to my browser that I was viewing, and I'll just simply press refresh. And you can see now it's put take 3 automatically there. So it's really quick with Notepad++ to put your code and then just keep the same browser open and just keep refreshing this as you change different tags. Now, we've looked at how you create a basic page layout, but then I also briefly mentioned this term element or HTML element. And as I explained in the demonstration, elements are usually something that makes the look of the web page, or if you want to add your content on the web page. And to simplify this in a nice way, usually elements will usually have like the tag name or the tag name of the element, and then your content just goes in between. And as we saw in just the example, there's 2 very, very simple elements that you should familiarize yourself with, which is the H1 to H6 elements, which are for your headings in your code, and then the P tag element. But also there's another tag which is classed as an element that doesn't actually end with this /. And one of these, which is very common, is what we call the BR tag element. And what this simply does, it just adds a space or a line space each time you use it. So if you was to add, say, 6 BR tags on your page, it would effectively make 6 spaces or lines on your web page. So an element is, and we'll look at other elements as we progress through the videos, but elements is effectively what you would use to add content onto your web page.